Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Buddhirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nastiki Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pecharine Rishesha Shunyavadi Pachate Destarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, so I thought we'll discuss for a shorter time today, for half an hour till 7:30 or so. So depending upon where we stop. Anybody would like to read the first verse, or I can read also if you're not in position to read.
I'll not be able to read today,
No,
Prabhuji.
that's fine, bro. Then I can read also. Srimad Bhagavatam first canto, 18th chapter, 42 verse. नवैर्नृभिर्नरदेवं पराख्यं सम्मातुम् अर्हसि अविपक्वबुद्धे यत्तेजसा दुर्विषहेण गुप्ता विन्दन्ति भद्राणि अकुतो भया प्रजाः. Synonyms: na, never. Why? As a matter of fact, Ribihi, by any man, Naradevam, unto a man god, Para Akhyam, who is transcendental, Sammatum, place on equal footing, Arhasi, by the prowess, Avipakva, unripe or immature, Buddhe, intelligence, Yat, of whom, Tejasa, by the prowess, Durvishahena, unsurpassable, Guptaha, protected, Vindanti, enjoys, Badrani, all prosperity, Akuta Bhayaha, completely defended, Prajaha, the subjects. Translation purport by Sri Prabhupada, Sri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: Oh my boy, your intelligence is immature, and therefore you have no knowledge that the king, who is the best amongst human beings, is as good as a personality of Godhead, is never to be placed on an equal footing with common men. The citizens of the state live in prosperity, being protected by his unsurpassable prowess. Okay, there's no purport, so we'll read one more. 43rd verse. अलक्ष्यमानेन नरदेव नाम्नि रताङ्गपानावयम् अङ्गलोकः तदा हि चौर प्रचुरो विनङ्क्षति अरक्ष्यमानो विवरदूतवत्क्षणात्. Synonyms: Alakshmane, being abolished, Naradeva, monarchical, Namni, of the name, Rata Anga Pano, the representative of the Lord, I am this, Anga, oh my boy, Lokaha, this world, Tadahi, at once, Chaura, thieves, Prechuraha, too much, Vinangshati, vanquishes, Arakshamanaha, being not protected, Avivaruta Vat, like lambs, Shanat, at once. Translation, purport by Sri Prabhupada, Sri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Okay, I will also open on my book so I can see. First canto 18th chapter 43 verse. Okay, good. My dear boy, the Lord who carries the wheel of a chariot is represented by the monarchical regime, and when this regime is abolished, the whole world becomes filled with thieves who then at once vanquish the unprotected subjects like scattered lambs. Okay, text 43. Okay, purport. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, the monarchical regime represents the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. The king is said to be the representative of the absolute personality of Godhead because he is trained to acquire the qualities of God to protect the living beings. The battle of Kurukshetra was planned by the Lord to establish the real representative of the Lord. Maharaj Yudhishthira, an ideal king, thoroughly trained by culture and devotion service, with the martial spirit, makes a perfect king. Such a personal monarchy is far better than the so-called democracy of no training and responsibility. Oh, that's important point. The thieves and rogues of modern democracy seek election by misrepresentation of votes, and the monarch and the successful rogues and thieves devour the mass of people. One trained monarch is far better than hundreds of useless ministerial rogues. That is, he hinted herein that by abolition of a monarchical regime like that of Maharaj Parishit, the mass of people become open to many attacks of the age of Kali. They are never happy in an overly advertised form of democracy. The result of such a kingless administration is described in following verses. Okay, beautiful purport. Basically, the context of these two verses is that uh, Parikshit Maharaj um, put the dead snake around the neck of the sage, and then he left. At that time, his son came. Son heard actually from his friends that this happened. King did this insult to his father. So he could not tolerate it, and he cursed him that he was going to die in 7 days by the bite of a snake bird. Then when he came here, when he came to the home of his father, when they came back to his home after being with his friends, then his father asked him what happened. Then he told the story. Then father was not happy. So now father is talking. That is what is going on in this context. Father is saying these two verses. What is he saying? 46 verses is telling, yeah, basically he's chastising directly, saying that your intelligence is immature. Therefore, uh, therefore you don't know that king is as good as personality of Godhead. So, and citizens can, he can never be considered like ordinary people, common people. And only when king is there, citizens are protected and they can live in prosperity, like that he said in the 42nd verse. And 43rd verse is concluding that, in that the Lord, the Lord is represented by the king. And when this king is abolished, the whole world becomes filled with thieves. Then all the citizens become unprotected, like that. Basically, point is in these two verses is that king is considered a representative of Supreme Lord. And king gives protection. What kind of king? That's what Prabhupada is clarifying. King like Parishit Maharaj, king like Yudhishthira Maharaj, these kings are offering full protection to citizens. Why? Because they got trained properly in their duties and they developed qualities like the Supreme Lord. That is why they represent the Supreme Lord. In other words, commonly the word is used as Rajarshi. That means kings who are very saintly. And that means they have good qualities like devotees. They are devotees. And also taking care of the responsibility as administrators or kings, like that. So because they have qualities like Krishna, that is why they are a good representative of Krishna. That's what Prabhupada writing one point in the purport. And the second point is an ideal king who is thoroughly trained in culture and devotion service. He is a better king. He makes a perfect king, is saying. And with the martial spirit also. Yeah, that means he must be brave also. Then such a king is better than so many people that we elect in democracy, is saying. So it's not that Prabhupada is saying monarchy is the best compared to democracy. He's saying monarchy is better if the one person who is ruling is trained properly. And then comparatively, if the democracy, so many people are there, but none of them are trained properly, then it is useless compared to one person trained properly. It's easy to train one person than training with all bunch of people like that, right? So that is the point Prabhupada is making here. That trained monarch is far better than hundreds of useless rogues like that. So that is why Krishna, Lord Krishna, arranged the battle of Kurukshetra also. Even though, remember in the first canto earlier chapters, Yudhishthira Maharaj is lamenting, why did I take up the kingdom? Why? Because of me, all this war happened. So many people died, like that. Yudhishthimara, one of the reason he gives is Duryodhana was anyway doing the administration properly, like that. There's not a big trouble. Why should I? Why should I? Why am I become the cause for all people dying in the Kurukshetra war like that? But Lord Krishna arranged it so that a devotee should be the king. Because when a devotee is a king, he can protect the citizens properly, not only by giving them food, shelter, and clothes, but also giving them the culture and bhakti, helping them to engage in bhakti, helping them to gradually elevate their consciousness so that they can benefit beyond this lifetime, not just this lifetime with food and clothing only like that. That's what Prabhupada is also emphasizing here, that he arranges this to Maharaj like that, to be a king like that. So basically, point is that king is representative of Krishna. We should not treat him like an ordinary person. And you have done a mistake immaturely by cursing him. Because if king is gone, then we citizens will become unprotected and we'll all suffer like that, he's saying. So now let's go to the next verse. Let me share the screen again. Okay, 118:44. तदद्य न पापम उपैति अनन्वयम् यन्नष्टनाथस्य वसोर्विलुम्पकात् परस्परं ज्ञन्ति सपन्ति वृञ्जते पशून् स्त्रियो अर्थान् पुरुदस्य वो जनाः. Synonyms. Tat, for this reason, adya, from this day, naha, upon us, papam, reaction of sin, upaiti, will overtake, ananvayam, disruption, yet, because, nasta, abolished, natasya, of the monarch, vaso, of wealth, vilumpakat, being plundered, parasparam, between one another, gnananti, will kill, sapanti, will do harm, brinjati, will steal, pasoon, animals, striyaha, women, Arthan, riches, Puru, greatly, Dasyavaha, thieves, Janaha, the mass of people. Translation per Professor Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Due to the termination of the monarchical regimes and the plundering of the people's wealth by rogues and thieves, there will be great social disruptions. People will be killed and injured, and animals and women will be stolen. And for all these sins, we shall be responsible. Purport. The word na, we, is very significant in this verse. The sage rightly takes the responsibility of the Brahmanas as a community for killing monarchical government and thus giving an opportunity to the so-called democrats, who are generally plunderers of the wealth of the state subjects. The so-called democrats capture the administrative machine without assuming responsibility for the prosperous condition of the citizens. Everyone captures the post for personal gratification, and thus, instead of one king, a number of irresponsible kings grow up to tax the citizens. It is foretold herein that in the absence of good monarchical government, everyone will be the cause of disturbance for others by plundering riches, animals, women, etc. So in this purport, in this verse, we are hearing that Samik Rishi is taking the responsibility on behalf of the whole Brahman community. That's why he's saying all of these sins we will be responsible for. Because if king is gone, then people will do, thieves will come and rogues will come, they will take wealth of people, people will be killed and injured, animals and women will be stolen like that, they will not be protected properly when the king is not there. So all that sin, we are responsible for, as a Brahmana community is taking full responsibility. Not saying that, oh, you curse, you take the responsibility like that, you will get messed up like that. That is a sign of a responsible leader. Even as parents, when our children do a mistake, we own it because they are under our care. Or as a master, sometimes someone is serving under us, serving with us. Then if they make mistake, it's our responsibility also. So what does it mean? That means we should not give service to anybody. We should do our service ourselves only. Not that point. Point is, in case we delegate service to anybody else, whether it's any dependents or any other peers, we need to make sure they are They understand the parameters of the service. They understand the success factors of the service. They they understand how to not go wrong, and they get trained for the service also. That is the way we can still be responsible, but give the service to others. And then one caution is, we should not be always keeping the service to ourselves only in the name of taking responsibility. We should give it to others, so that way they can also take the responsibility. And even initially, few times they'll fail. That's okay. But that is the way we'll all get trained. Otherwise, if only perfect people only do all the services, we never get trained like that. So that's why sometimes we're given the opportunity also. So we should take seriously and sincerely get trained properly and do the service nicely. Any other comments or questions before we go to the next verse? Otherwise, we go to the next one. 45th is the next verse. Okay, let's go to the next verse. 45th. Tadarya dharma praviliyate nrinam varnashramachara yutastrayi mayaha tatordha kama binivesitatmanam sunam kapinam iva varna sankaraha. Synonyms. Tada, at that time, Arya, progressive civilization, Dharmaha, engagement, Praviliyate, is systematically vanquished. Nrinam, of humankind, Varna, caste, Ashrama, orders of society, Acharya Yutaha, composed in a good manner, Trayi Mayaha, in terms of the Vedic injunction, Tataha, thereafter, Ardha, economic development, Kama, Abhiniveshita, fully absorbed in sense gratification. Yeah, Abhiniveshita word we see in a few other places also. Atmanam, of men. Sunam, like dogs. Kapinam, like monkeys. Iva, thus, Varna Sankaraha, unwanted population. Translation, purport by Sri Prabhupada, Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. At that time, the people in general will fall systematically from the path of a progressive civilization in respect to the qualitative engagements of the caste and orders of society and the Vedic injunctions. Thus, they'll be more attracted to. So, this is exactly predicting what is happening now. They'll be more attracted to economic development for sense gratification. And as a result, there will be an unwanted population on the level of dogs and monkeys. Wow. Purport by Sri Prabhupada ki jai. It is foretold herein that in the absence of monarchical regime, the general mass of people will be an unwanted population like dogs and monkeys. As the monkeys are too sexually inclined and the dogs are shameless in sexual intercourse, general mass of population born of illegitimate connection will systematically go astray from the Vedic way of good manners and qualitative engagements in the castes and orders of life. Hmm. The Vedic way of life is the progressive march of the civilization of the Aryans. The Aryans are progressive in Vedic civilization. The Vedic civilization's destination is to go back to Godhead, back home, where there is no birth, no death, no old age, and no disease. The Vedas direct everyone not to remain in the darkness of the material world, but to go towards the light of the spiritual kingdom, far beyond the material sky. Mm. The qualitative caste system and orders of the life are scientifically planned by the Lord and his representatives, the great rishis. The perfect way of life gives all sorts of instruction in things both material and spiritual. The Vedic way of life does not allow any man to be like the monkeys and dogs, a degraded civilization of sense gratification and economic development is the byproduct of a godless or kingless government of the people, by the people and for the people. The people should not, therefore, begrudge the poor administrations they themselves elect. So it's a nice verse and purport. Basically, what we are hearing in this verse is that Samik Rishi is saying, oh, where is that? I clicked on some button. Okay. Samik Rishi is saying that when the king is not there, what all repercussions can happen is describing. the repercussion is describing is that people in general who are very, very inclined to sense gratification only, they will fall away from the path of varnashma. Fall away from the path of varnashma. That means they will not do basic varnashma duties. That is the point they're making. And then what does that mean? Only if you do varnashma, if you not, then you can elevate your consciousness to the bhakti level and go back to Godhead. That is the original purpose of varnashma that is established by Krishna and the great rishis. So if somebody is not doing that, what they'll do, they will do the default, which is just sense gratification. So that means they'll just do earn more money, more money, more money to enjoy more, enjoy more like that. And in that process, because they're not caring for any varna and varnashama rules, what they'll do is they'll engage in illegitimate activity, illicit sex. Then they will have poor quality children only. That's how society will be degraded. From instead of going to the higher purpose of life, working on higher purpose of life, they'll be degraded to do these sense gratification activities only, like that. This was he describing. Yeah, Varna Sankara, like in Bhagavad also we talk about Varna Sankara, right? How people will take advantage of women like that. Arjuna talks about if all the elderly people go away like that. So it's important principle for us to learn. What is the principle? Principle is that people should be engaged in by the leaders in proper execution of bhakti or varnashram principles, at least like that. If they're not directly engaging in bhakti. And varnashram principles are also supportive of bhakti, not that they are against bhakti like that. Any other comments or questions? If not, we can go to the next verse. 46th verse. Yeah, no worries, Sakshi Gopal Prabhu. You cannot read today. That's absolutely okay. Yeah. I joined many classes where I cannot read. That's absolutely okay. Let's go to next verse, 46th verse. Dharmapalo narapatihi satu samrat bhrachhravaha sakshan mahabhagavato rajarshir hayamedayat shutrit sramayuto dino naivasma chapam arhati. Synonyms. Dharmapalaha, the protector of religion. Narapatihi, the king. Saha, he. Tu, but. Samrat, emperor. Brihat, highly. Sravaha, celebrated. Sakshat, directly. Mahabhagavata, the first class devotee of the Lord. Rajarshihi, saint among the royal order. Hayamedayat, great performer of all sacrifices. Kshut, hunger. Trit, thirst. Sramayutaha, tired and fatigued. Dinaha, stricken. Na, never. Eva, thus. Asmat, by us. Sapam, curse. Arhati, deserves. Translation purport by Sri Prabhupada. Sri Prabhupada ki jai. The Emperor Parikshit, where is that in my book? His verse number is 46, right? Okay. Oh, that's translation, right? The Emperor Parikshit is a pious king. He is highly celebrated and is a first class devotee of the personality of Godhead. He is a saint amongst royalty and he has performed many odd sacrifices. When such a king is tired and fatigued, being stricken with hunger and thirst, he does not at all deserve to be cursed. Purport. After explaining the general codes relating to the royal position and asserting that the king can do no wrong and therefore is never to be condemned, the sage Samika wanted to say something about Maharaj Parikshit specifically. The specific qualification of Maharaj Parikshit is summarized herein. The king, even calculated as king only, was most celebrated as a ruler who administrated the religious principles of the royal order. Most celebrated as a ruler who administers the religious principles of royal order. Okay. That means Kshatriya principles he was executing nicely. In the Shastras, the duties of all castes and orders of society are prescribed. All the qualities of Kshatriya mentioned in the Bhagavata 18.43 were present in the person of the emperor. He was also a great devotee of the Lord and a self-realized soul. Cursing such a king when he was tired and fatigued with hunger and thirst was not at all proper. Samika Rishi, thus admitted from all sides that Maharaj Parishit was cursed most unjustly. Although all the Brahmanas were aloof from the incident, still, for the childish action of a Brahmana boy, the whole world situation was changed. Thus, Rishi Samika, a Brahmana, took responsibility for all deterioration of the good orders of the world. Took responsibility for the deterioration of the good orders of the world. Okay, good. Let me underline something and then we can discuss. So in this verse, Samika Rishi is continuing to tell his son. What is he telling? He's telling that basically, until now, he described how generally king should not be condemned. King is representative of God like that. General king, any king. Now, and now he's telling Parishit Maharaj is a great king because he did followed the principles of Kshatriya nicely in protecting the citizens like that. Number one. Number two qualification is he was a great devotee of the Supreme Lord also. And he has done many horse sacrifices also. So if such a king, who's such a great king, if he becomes hungry, tired and fatigued, then he's not deserved to be cursed, because in that condition he can do something that's okay, like that he's saying basically. Yeah. So basically he's saying it's unjust to curse that king. So, and then he's taking the responsibility on behalf of the whole Brahmana caste. Because Brahmana, being a Brahmana boy, he acted incorrectly. Not a appropriate punishment he did not give. That's why he's saying that, Prabhupada is saying that he is lamenting. Samika Rishi is lamenting and he wants to, is condemning his son for cursing him like that. And he's taking full responsibility for it like that. Was there any other comments or questions? Okay, if not, we can end here today. I need to prepare for another session. That's why.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I do have, please accept my humble obeisances, a small clarification, Prabhu.
Sure, Prabhuji.
About Varnashrama Dharma, that Prabhupada very clearly explained about like who the king and how the king and who should rule and how Varna Shankara can be avoided. If I'm just contemplating in the current situation, we are in we are in a disordered order of not really understanding about our Varna. And Prabhupada's teaching is everybody should become Brahmana. That's the teachings that I understood. So
not everyone, but generally he was encouraging devotees to become Brahmana, but not everybody will be suitable to become Brahmana finally. Yeah, go ahead, continue.
So, okay, that is the understanding I had. So basically, everybody were trained to become a Brahmana.
Yeah, correct.
Everybody trained to become a Brahmana. So, and then so that they can get back to Godhead. That was my understanding. So I always contemplate that how, if my Varna, if I'm a Vaishya, um, if I'm a Vaishya, I understand that I can elevate to a Brahmana stage, but that is the only option that we have, or can we serve still as a Vaishnava in a Brahmanical order? That because like my quality is like a Vaishya, and then like if you have to get closer, you have to become a Brahmana. So I will always have that struggle, like I want to serve the Lord, but like there are no opportunities for me to serve the Lord with my Varnashrama. I'm just called, yeah, Prabhuji.
Got it. No problem, bro. I will clarify the premise of the question and then we can discuss. I remember you were asking this question some time ago also in some other sessions, not to me, but someone else. I remember this topic, but I'll share with you what I understand on the topic. I say two principles. One is not like a rule or a principle that everybody in ISKCON needs to become Brahmana, otherwise they are out of devotion service. Not like that. So generally, many of these things we should not take it as, if I'm not able to follow that, I'm out of the range of devotion service, like that. We should not take it. Number one principle. And Prabhupada was trying to create a class of Brahmanas is described generally. What does that mean? That means, let us say he has given initiation for 2,000 people. Then at least 100 of them, he wanted to make sure they become a higher class Brahmana-like character, if they can. So that way they can lead the rest of the society like that, whether it's ISKCON society or beyond like that. That is how we should take it, that statement. Not like he's saying everybody should become Brahmana to become devotee, otherwise you are lost. Not like that. That's one important principle. Second important principle is that we know from Bhagavad Gita, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, that division is not based on the birth, based on guna and karma. Guna means qualities and karma means activities or occupation that we do. So guna has two meanings in Bhagavad Gita context. One is the qualities like cleanliness, regulation, punctuality, uh, being brave, or being faithful to the master. So like that qualities are there. That is one meaning of the guna. Another meaning of guna in this context I want to explore is by the modes of nature, like sattva gunam, sattva, rajoguna, tamoguna, like means mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance, like that. So if you consider in terms of mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance, the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra go something like this. Brahmana is predominantly in mode of goodness. Kshatriya is predominantly in mode of goodness with some passion. Vaishya is predominantly in mode of passion with some amount of ignorance, if you remember correctly. Then Sudra is predominantly in mode of ignorance, like that. If you take like this, all of us have predominantly one of the modes, but we are always affected by three modes, like that we know from Bhagavad Gita. So based on that, and based on the psychophysical nature, what we have from previous baggage, we act in a one particular level in terms of occupations, in terms of modes of nature also. So what is recommended for us in practice of devotion service is everything that we hear in Shastra from Guru, Sadhu, we need to apply in the context of me and my particular circumstance. That is what we need to do. That means even with Guru's instructions, we take Guru's guidance for my context, how to apply like that. Then it becomes easy. Then if my predominant nature is mode of passion and my occupation is doing agriculture or animal protection like that, for example, then I have Vaishya nature. Then what do I need to do? Then I need to engage my nature of doing, for example, doing trade, doing business, engage that tendencies and propensities for Krishna's service. How do we do that? Our mentor and guru can help us to engage that particular propensities in Krishna's service, like that. That is one thing we are meant to do. Not that we need to wait till we go become Brahmana to do service like that. That is one. Number two, as we do devotional service, as we hear in second chapter of first canto, just by doing devotional service, what is happening is mode of goodness is increasing and mode of passion and ignorance are reducing. So the moment mode of goodness is increasing and mode of passion and ignorance is decreasing, what does that mean? That means we are becoming Brahmana in terms of guna at least. Now that needs to be supported. If we want to become Brahmana, we don't have to, but if we want to become Brahmana, we need to cultivate the corresponding qualities of Brahmana also, occupations of Brahmana, which is reading scriptures, sharing scriptures, doing deity worship, teaching deity worship, giving charity, receiving charity, like that. Those qualities also we can cultivate as Brahmana. When we do those, then we can become Brahmana also. So in other words, what Prabhupada is saying is not force-fitting anybody, but naturally will develop into higher modes. And even in 12th canto, I believe 12th, 11th canto, even 11th canto, Lord Krishna talks about in gradual evaluation, he talks about evolving towards mode of goodness or consciousness. From there, he says, you can go to transcendence like that. You can give up goodness and go to transcendence like that, he says. So in that sense, this is all compatible nicely. But what we are supposed to do now is, whatever nature we have right now, whatever gifts we have, whatever resource we have, we engage them happily in Krishna's service. So that way we can be we can elevate our consciousness, and slowly we can go back to Krishna. That is the idea. And the way to do this is also our mentors can guide us. Essentially, what is our nature means what exactly we like to do always. And then what is that we need to do. So we need to see any intersection between these two. And that will help us to start off what we need to do as a service based on our nature. And then it can expand later on. What we like to do will expand. And then what we do, what we can do also will expand. That means our skill set. And then what needs to be done as a service. That will also, this intersection we'll see, and will every time we capture that and go like that. And Krishna will give us more and more opportunities. As long as we do some service based on our nature, based on our skill set and resources currently, Krishna is pleased with that. It's not like Krishna is not displeased because we are not doing Brahmanical qualities like that. I don't know if it makes sense. You can ask any follow-up also if that doesn't make sense, Prabhu.
No, Prabhu, if I really explained. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for explaining so nicely. I really appreciate it, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Welcome, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Any other comments or questions?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, welcome, Prabhu. Okay. We can end here then. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Suffer business to all the devotees of the Lord. Vanchakalpataru Besha Kupasandu Bevacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you, devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll send you the recording, Mataji.